Well, I'm just out here soaking up some beautiful morning sun and just reflecting on the process and everything that I've been going through since this cancer diagnosis, and wanted to just recap some of the things that I have just experienced. I just got home from the Mayo clinic this week. Um, I did get a second opinion there, so started in Colorado and went through the process here as far as getting the initial appointment with the surgeon, and just all of those first steps. Met with the whole team, heard what their treatment plan was going to be, and then got to Mayo for a second opinion. I went there. Obviously, Mayo Clinic is just well known in general for their care and research and all of the things. But also, my husband relocated to Minnesota um, it, like 3 weeks before I found this out. So it felt like it was a good opportunity to see what they had to say. Once I went, they were had some concerns with the results that I had gotten back from my MRI. I had a couple of additional spots that were suspicious, so they advised that I get additional biopsies. At first, I wasn't into that at all. Because I know the route that I'm going to take, I'm planning to have a bilateral mastectomy and then start chemo after that. But their argument was, if this is cancerous tissue, then that would be well over the threshold for what we would feel comfortable with as far as surgery first, and you may need to go chemo first. And then, in addition to that, there are specific times where just because it is cancerous tissue doesn't mean that it's the same type of cancer or has the same markers, which would heavily impact the type of chemo that I would need to have. So all in all, they just felt it was a safer option to do biopsies on that. In addition to that, they found one lymph node that was slightly larger, so they wanted to also biopsy that to just ensure that nothing had gotten into my lymph nodes. So I went through the process of getting what they call an MRI guided biopsy. That was a whole process in and of itself. With an MRI for breast cancer, you're essentially laying in like a really hard kind of massage table situation where you're face down, you have your face in a face cradle, and then your breasts just kind of like hang down through a hole, and they do all of the images that way. So I had already had one of those to determine, did they see anything else. Now this is my second go around with having the MRI guided biopsy, which is essentially where they're looking at the images, plotting them out, putting in like where they're going to try to take tissue, and then checking it. Like, I'm in and out of the machine several times. It was probably about an hour and a half that it took by the time they looked at everything and then actually got the tissue samples. That was actually super painless for the biopsy, way less painful than the initial biopsy I had on the spot on the lump that I had found. So they definitely got me more numb this time, and there were 2 sites that they biopsied in that appointment. Excuse me. Once I got through that, then I went back and did a second an appointment for the lymph node biopsy. So all of those results came back and they were all negative, thankfully. So I do still just have the one remaining initial spot of cancer. So that gave everyone the go-ahead to just go forward with surgery first and then chemo. I do have to have chemo just because of the type of cancer I have. I have a HER2 triple positive, so the triple positive responds really well to chemo. And that's why I have to have chemo, even though this spot is pretty small. I do have an option of getting like a lumpectomy versus a mastectomy. There's no cancer found in my other breast at all. However, those additional suspicious areas could potentially at some point become cancer. They are still kind of suspicious, but they're just not showing as cancer at this point. So I think for me, and just like my age and all of it, I'm gonna just opt for the bilateral mastectomies. I don't feel comfortable with a lumpectomy at all, considering that other tissue. And then I also feel a little odd, having one breast of my own and then like an implant or something on the other side. I just don't feel like that's gonna look good long term or make me feel good long term. So I am gonna just go ahead and go with the bilateral. That I also just really don't ever want to have to deal with this again. So I feel like that's kind of getting me my best shot potentially of not ever having to deal with breast cancer again. It's definitely not like a huge difference in like recurrence, but my cancer has a high level of recurrence. So I just want to do everything that I can to like eradicate any chance of having recurrence. I don't ever want to have to go through chemo again. I don't want to have like a bunch of surgery again. So that's what I'm planning to do. And at this point, I'm feeling very much like the Mayo Clinic. Not that I had a bad experience here in Colorado. I felt comfortable with the doctors here and their initial plan, and I'm very grateful that they got me in so fast and all of those things. But the Mayo Clinic was just such a different experience. They are very thorough there. They just have more support, I think, in general. Like every appointment that I had multiple people in there to give me information. They took so much time to give me information. Every appointment, like there was never an appointment where I felt rushed. Some of the questions I had at my other appointments in Colorado, like I just didn't leave there feeling like I got the information that I was trying to get. And I left almost thinking that it was me. Like, I don't know how to ask these questions properly, or I'm not communicating this in the way that I need to communicate for them to understand. That experience was completely different at Mayo, so I felt like my questions were answered like very thoroughly. So I felt a lot more comfortable with that. And just from just like a care standpoint, I just feel like that is the best thing for me health-wise. Outside of that, like it's going to be a very difficult process for me there because I will have my husband there, but I don't have any other support system. So I'm a little bit scared about that, to be quite honest. Just, again, from my mental health perspective, I don't know that it's the best idea to not have like a full support system as you're starting to go through this process. But I do feel like this is a big enough deal from a health perspective that I do need to do what's best for me health-wise and just try my best to figure out the rest. And do what I need to do there. So thankfully, like, my parents are both retired. They've both committed to coming and hanging out so that I have other faces to see. So I'm very, very thankful for the support system that I do have and their ability to support me no matter where I get treatment. So that's a blessing for sure.